recording our Rashi study in case there's somebody out there who wants to study Rashi with us. Basically, the pasuk, we're up to chapter 25, verse 27. Vayigdalu na'arim, and the young lads grew older. Esav ish yodei tzayid. Esav was a man who knew tzayid. Ish sadeh is a man of the field. Yaakov ishtam. Yaakov was an ishtam yoshev olim. So also we want to say, by the way, that today when we were studying our parasha class, we saw the Seforno's explanation. Yaakov was Yoshev Oalim, meant that he was a person who was using his tent to teach Torah. Yoshev Oalim, he was using his tent to teach Torah. So that's what Seforno says. Let's see what Rashi says. Vayigdalu anarim vayi Esav. So Rashi says, "Calls man shayu katanim." As long as they were younger, nobody could recognize them. And nobody was able to discern what was their nature. Once they became 13 years old, Yaakov went to the base medrash, and Esav went to idolatry. Yodei Tzayid. What does it mean that Esav was Yodei Tzayid? So Rashi here takes a very powerful explanation. Rashi says it's not Yodei Tzayid that he knows that he was a trapper, but it rather means he knows how to trap. Rashi says, "Latzud uramos es aviv befiv." He knew how to trap his father with his mouth. He knew how to trick his father. That's what he said it meant. V'sho'alo, he would ask him kotz kashas. He would say, "Abba, heich ma'asrin es hamelach v'esatevin." Father, how do we tithe the salt and the grain? Kosavar aviv shu medaktek b'mitzvos. His father thought that he was medaktek b'mitzvos. His father thought that he was so careful. He was so careful about doing the mitzvos because he was asking these questions like, how do we make a tithe from salt and from straw? But really, you don't have to take a tithe from salt or straw at all. But his father said, "Oh, he's asking such a good question. How do we take 10% of a salt grain, or 1/40th or 1/50th?" This is like the questions that he was trying to show how pious he was, but he was really just he was just tricking his father with his false piety. And also it says, Ishtam Yoshev Oalim. He was a simple man who dwelt in the tents. What does that mean? Yaakov Ishtam Yoshev Oalim. But first we skip the Rashi. That Esav was Ish Yodei Tzayid Ish Sadeh. What does that mean? He was Yodei Tzayid Ish Sadeh. What does that mean? A man of the field. Rashi says Kamash Ma'o. Unlike when it comes to the trapping, there he says he knows how to trap. Here it meant he literally dwelt in the fields. Kamash Ma'o. Adam Batel B'tzodeh B'kashto Chayos V'ofos. He was like a man who sat around not doing any work, and he was catching with his bow wild animals, chayos v'ofos, animals and birds. So basically, this is not a good thing. They weren't impressed with the hunters. None of the patriarchs were hunters. Avram was a shepherd. Yitzchak was a shepherd, and Yaakov was a shepherd. Moshe was a shepherd. So they were nobody was a hunter. Only Esav was a hunter. So Yaakov was an ishtam. Yaakov was a wholesome man. What is it? Yaakov was ishtam. That's how they translated here. A wholesome man dwelling in the tents. What does it mean? He was tam. Rashi says it means eno baki b'ko elah. Kuibo came b'fiv. He was not an expert in any of this. His heart was at one with his mouth. He was Toho Kaboro. that his inside was like his outside. Mi she'eino charif l'ramos, somebody who's not sharp to deceive is called tam. Now this is ironic because if you look at the pshat, there's a lot of verses that seem to indicate that Yaakov was. Rabbi Yossi, you're trying to say something?
No, I sneezed. Sorry.
Okay. If you look at the pshat, there are a lot of verses that seem to indicate not like this, that Yaakov knew how to be deceptive. But Rashi says, no, you can't take that approach. Rashi says that Yaakov was Ke'ish Tam. He was a simple person. He didn't have any deception inside him.
It's not here. Job also is called Tom.
Job is called Tom.
Verse 1 is the first sentence.
Rabbi Yosef, can you pull up chapter 1, verse 1 of Job?
Yeah, but also Noach. But I'm just saying, like, there's
Noach is Tzaddik Tamim. He's called Tamim. What is he called? What's Eov called? Let's see what we pull it up.
And I was just gonna say that maybe, like, it says Vayigdalu, so Yaakov was a good person, and he was in fact Tam. But when you have a brother like that and a father like that, you use the deception. But in his nature, he was Tam. Like, he wasn't. It was against his nature what he did. Right? He argues with Rebecca about what she tells him to do. Right? It's a mash.
So he was Tam. So here is what Eov says. Ishaya be'eretz Utz. There was a man in Utz. Eov Shemo. Vaya Ishau Tam v'Yashar. Eov was called Tam v'Yashar. So there we clearly see that Tam is a compliment. He was Tam. He was upright. Okay.
Also one of the 4 sons, right?
There it's not clear that it's a compliment. There the word Tam is not as much. It's not clear as much as a compliment as here. Here it's certainly a compliment. Right, verse 29. No, wait. Oh, Yoshev Olim, he lived in the tents. Olo shall shame. He lived in the tent of shame. Va'olo shall aver, in the tent of aver. Okay. Vayazid Yaakov Nazid. So Yaakov, verse
28.
Oh yeah, verse 28. Vayahav Yitzchak es Esav kitzai befiv. Yitzchak loved Esav because he was tzayid befiv. The Rivka haves es Yaakov. And Rivka loved Yaakov. So what does it mean? Yitzchak loved Esav because he was tzayid befiv, because he was tzayid befiv. What does that mean? Rashi says, Kitargumo, befiv shal Yitzchak. The Targum understands it means they say he would put the tzayid in the mouth of Yitzchak, that he would trap food for him. He would trap food for him in Midrasho, but the explanation is bepiv shel Esav shayatzado so u'merameo b'dvarav. The Midrash is saying that with the mouth of Esav, that Esav was trapping him and deceiving him with his words. Whereas Rivka, Oheves es Yaakov, there's no Rashi on that. Okay, Pasuk Chavtet, verse 29. Vay Yazed Yaakov Nazid. Yaakov boiled a stew. He made a stew soup, and Esav came from the field, and he was weary. Rashi says, "Vayazed" means lashon bishul, means cooking. Kitargum, as Kitargumo, as the uncle says it. Rashi, what does the uncle say? Uvashil Yaakov tavshila. That uncle says he cooked. So the point is that Vayazed could also have implied he schemed, but the Unkelos and Rashi are making sure to say that it doesn't mean that, it means cooked as opposed to schemed.
So the Torah just finished telling us that he was Yoshev Oholim, and then he goes up.
And he's a cooker.
And he starts cooking this
soup
food in order to
no, he wasn't
persuade.
He wasn't cooking in order to persuade. He was cooking for himself. He wasn't. That's why Rashi is saying he wasn't scheming. He was just for himself. So Vayoz Yaakov Nazir Vayavo Esav min hasadeh v'hu ayef. So what does it mean v'hu ayef? Rashi says, Biritzicha, he was tired. Esav was weary from murdering. Kemadatema, like it says in the Pasuk in Jeremiah, it says in Jeremiah chapter 4:31, Ki aifa nafshi lahargim. My soul is exhausted by murderers. So Esav was considered to be, when Rashi says the word ayef, means Esav was a murderer.
Because he was killing animals, or he was killing people?
He was also killing people. He was also killing people. We're going to see the Rashi later on is going to say who he killed. But that's what Rashi does not think Esav was a good person. Vayomer Esav el Yaakov. Esav says to Yaakov, Haliteni na min adom azeki ayef anochi. Pour me some of that red stuff because I am weary. Al kain karashmo Edom. Therefore, Esav was called Edom. Let's see what Rashi says. Haliteni, pour for me. Eftach pi, I'll open my mouth. Ushfoch harbe socha. I'll open my mouth and pour a lot of the soup into it. Kemoshe shaninu ein ovsin esagamal avomalitinoso. Like we learned in the Mishnah, we don't stuff a camel on Shabbos, but we can pour food into it. So this is the word ovsin means stuffing. Malitin is pouring. That's like the Gemara in Shabbos on 155b. So that's what Rashi's saying. Rashi's learning out the pasuk, the taich of the pasuk from the Gemara in Shabbos, from the Mishnah. Mina adom from the red stuff. Rashi tells us this red stuff was adashim adumot, red lentil soup. So ayom, that was the day that Meis Avram, that was the day that Abraham died. Because Abraham died, Shelo Yiraz Esav ben Beno Yotze Latarbus Ra. Avram died that day because he did not want to see his grandson go out to the bad ways. The Einzu Seva Tova, because Hashem had promised Avram that he would have a Seva Tova, that he would die with old age. It says in chapter 15, verse 15. What does it say there? He says in chapter 15, verse 15, it says, you're going to be buried with Seva Tova. But if you're going to be buried seeing your grandson is fry, then you're not, that's not Seva Tova. So he died before he could see Esav going bad. God promised him he'd have Seva Tova. Therefore, therefore, Avram died 5 years early. Isaac that lived for 180 years. And Avram lived for 175 years. And so why did Yaakov make lentil soup? This is something that's called lahavros es ha'avel. This is something we had recently in the Gemara. It's called the Sudas Havra. The Sudas Havra is the meal that the mourners eat when they come back from burying their relative. They eat the meal Sudas Havra. So therefore, Yaakov was making this meal for the mourners. The mourners of Abraham would have been Yitzchak and Yishmael. V'lama adashim. Why is this meal made from lentils? Shedomos legalgal. So we have today that people come back, they eat round foods, and this is the source for this idea, because this meal is, the lentils are similar to a wheel. Really a lentil, they're oval. So Shavelus galgal hachozer bo'olam, because Avelus is a wheel that turns in the world. So Avelus is a wheel that turns in the world. V'od ma adashim ein lahem peh, just like lentils have no mouth, kacha avel ein lo peh. So to a mourner has no mouth. She'asur ledaber, a mourner is not allowed to speak. The first period of the mourning period, the mourner is not supposed to say anything. Ufikach, therefore, amina gahavros es ha'avel betchilas machalo. Therefore, the custom is lahavros es ha'avel, to give food to the mourner betchilas machalo, at the beginning of his food, beitzim, to give him eggs, sheim agulim, because they're rounded, meaning to say, you don't give him scrambled eggs, but you give him hard-boiled eggs. They have no mouth. You don't give them egg salad, you give them an egg. Kach avel en lo peh. Like an egg, a mourner has no mouth. Kedamrina b'moed katan. We say that in moed katan. Avel kol shosha yamim arishonim, and this is what Rashi was referring to. A mourner the first 3 days, eino moshiv shalom. Even if you greet the mourner, he doesn't respond. Kol adam. When a person greets him, for sure he doesn't initiate. So if we say to the mourner the first 3 days, hey, how you doing? The mourner doesn't respond. But mishlishi from day 3 until day 7, he responds, but he does not ask. So this is Rashi, like straight to halacha. This is the practice or the custom to this day. That mourners, I never seen a mourner eat a lentil soup at that meal, but they eat eggs, bagels. That's usually the custom, eggs and bagels. Also, the custom of not greeting the mourner really fell away, but I think what it really means is you don't give them an effusive greeting.
You don't say, how are you?
No, I don't really think it. I don't really see too many people who are. Well, yeah, I don't. But
it's also very bad tact to say, "How are you?"
Yeah, of course. So now Esav says, "Vayomer Esav," and Esav says, "Vayomer Yaakov mechrach hayom es bechoras chali." And Yaakov says, sell for me today the firstborn to me. Mechrach hayom. What does that mean? Rashi says, kitar gumo.
Why did Jacob initiate it? I never focused on that. Why did he do that? I thought it was Esau was the bad guy.
Yomer Yaakov, so because Esav says to him, I want your firstborn rights. I want your, give me some of that red soup. So Yaakov says, sell it to me. Why? Rashi's going to tell us. Rashi's going to answer Jeffrey's question. Jeffrey's asking, why does Yaakov say? Why did Yaakov make this demand? So let's see what Rashi says. Michrach hayom, sell this day, kitar gumo, kiyom dilahain. As this day, meaning to say, it doesn't mean today, but it means like today is a day. Kayom shu baru, just like the day is clear, kach mechorli mechira barua. Do a clear and undisputable sale. Meaning to say, like by the brightness of the sun. Bechorascha. Well, hold on a second. Look at the Rashi. The Rashi says, sell your firstborn. Lefisha avoda bebechoros. Why does Yaakov want the firstborn? Jeffrey is asking that question. And the answer is because the service, what does the firstborn entail? Rashi tells us that the firstborn entails service to Hashem, sacrificial service. The service is in the firstborn. And Amar Yaakov, Ein Rasha Zeh Kedai Sheyaakov HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Yaakov doesn't want the firstborn so that he could get the double portion of money. That's not his intent, says Rashi. His intent is that he doesn't think it's appropriate for Esav to be bringing the sacrificial offerings to God because the offerings come from the firstborn. In those days, the firstborn was the one who was bringing the sacrificial service and serving. And so therefore, Yaakov was saying, that should be me and not this wicked one.
Okay, but it makes him still the bad guy because Esau says, I'm exhausted. And then Jacob seizes on that exhaustion.
Because
Jacob
felt that it was dangerous for Esav to be in the position of making the offerings to God because that would affect them be very bad.
I still think it's.
Vayomer Yaakov, Yishava li kayom, and Yaakov said, "Swear to me today." Well, excuse me. Vayomer Esav, Esav says, "Hinei anochi olecha mut." Esav says, and this goes to Jeffrey's question again. Esav says, "Behold, I'm about to die. Lama zeli bechora." Why do I need the firstborn? So Rashi says, "Hinei anochi olecha mut." Behold, I'm about to die. Misnodedes v'olecha siya bechora. The birthright of the firstborn is wandering away. Shelote ko Esav odabe b'choros. Because Esav says, "Look, I know that it's got a sunset clause because I know Kishevet Levi Yitolosa. I know that this tribe of Levi is going to eventually take over the firstborn. So what do I need it? It's a temporary thing." And furthermore, Va'od Amar Esav Ma tiva shel avodazu. Esav said to Yaakov, "Tell me about this firstborn." Amar lo Yaakov said, "Kama haros va'onshin umisos tuyim ba." Well, if you mess up, you serve in the temple and you're not supposed to, there's all these terrible things that can happen to you. Like we learned, the following get the death penalty. Shetuya yayin pruye rosh. If you go in when you're drunk or if your hair is too long, you're going to get put to death. So Esav says, "Ani olecha mut ayada." This is going to kill me. Im kain ma chafetz liba. So therefore, what do I want from this?
Very clever.
What do I want from it? He says, "What do I want from this death penalty? It's going to kill me." You
What do I
see?
want from this birthright?
What do I want from this birthright? It's going to kill me. So dangerous. So that's what Rashi reads this. Vayomer Yaakov Yishavo Kayom. Yaakov says, "Swear to me." Yishavo, Esav swore. Vayim Koros Bechoro Solo Yaakov, and he sold his firstborn rights to Jacob. He sold it. So we've been learning in our portion in our Talmud about an oath.
Onus.
An oath. Well, this is not an onus. This is an invalid oath. Esav knew he was selling it. Why didn't he need to swear? The Rashi doesn't tell us. A regular sale doesn't need an oath. Yaakov gave to Esav lechem u'nezirah Hashem. He gave him bread and lentil stew, or a stew. Vayochel vayesh, he ate and he drank. Vayakam vayelach, he got up and he walked. Vayivaz Esav esah bechorah, and Esav despised the firstborn. Just read this last Rashi, finish this chapter. Vayivaz Esav eyed akasav al risho. The verse testifies to his wickedness. Shebiza avodas Hashem makom. He despises the service of God. I'll stop the recording here. Hold on. Okay.